We gotta be better. At some point, we're going to unpack precisely what's wrong in this country about servicing the sick with dignity. As you know, this first hour, we do the open lines, and we had a chat with our team today, Dipuo, Neo, Denzel, and Fano. And they say to me that I've got to make an opening statement every day. I thought the opening statement was only for the opening show. Then I asked them, okay, what should be said? And we thought, we agreed that, do you guys even like opening statements at the beginning of a show? Do you even want to hear us make this or that thought about general issues? So we're going to open it to you. What do you want to hear when we open the Power Talk? What kind of a frame of thought? Do you even like these opening statements is the question. And that's precisely what I'd like to hear from you today on the open lines. But remember, the open lines are for you. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what you're seeing. Tell us what you're going through. Tell us what you want to hear. Also give us a sense of the public conversation today. Challenge us, provoke others, provoke those in power, provoke those who are going through this or that problem. Motivate us. It's time for the open lines, and the open lines is about you. Today, later in the show, we're going to interrogate screens, what we see on our screens, what a generation of people, particularly in the 21st century, whose lives have been shaped by screens, but in particular, film. And we'll also look at theatre later. We've got the great Angus Gibson, the creator of Yizo Yizo, up to Shaka. We're going to talk to him about storytelling, about television, about what it is that they do when they tell stories. Who do they have in mind? And look at his body of work over the last 3 decades or so. What is the message? What is he framing? But also about film as an economic industry, its capacity for economic growth. What kinds of jobs will he use and navigate through his work to try and paint film as an economy? Later, we have James Ngcobo. We're going to extend that conversation to theatre. What is the state of theatre today? So stay tuned. But before we go to the open lines, which you can find on 0861 987 000. That's the conversational line. WhatsApp line 083303 7093. And you can follow us and join the conversation on Twitter at PowerFM987. Use the hashtag to join the conversation, Power Talk. If you've just joined us, it's me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, and welcome to the Power Talk. Before we go to the open lines, I got a 1-minute teaser of a song. Great song indeed. Here we go. Welcome to Power Talk. It's time for the open line, 0861 987 000. Join the conversation. You can send us voice notes on WhatsApp, 0833037093. Join the conversation on all social media platforms using the hashtag Power Talk. And we are on Twitter as well at PowerFM987. Itumeleng from Kayalami. Dumela usi Itumeleng. I'm gonna have to start getting a brief. Ba le lahlela fela ngwaneso ke kopa o nkinele matso metsing.
Ha ona bothata Dr Ndlozi. Welcome, Tatwaka.
Ke a leboha.
No, what I was saying now from where I'm standing, there's a lot of things that are going wrong in the country. My wish is just those positive, brilliant quotes, the positive message to say, the resilient people that we are as South Africans, just to start the day with just a brilliant quote each and every day, just a suggestion. A person is a person because of other people. As an example, African items, stuff like that. Yeah, I think it can bring back those positives, and then we'll continue and deal with our issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll certainly make a huge consideration of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Snega from Kagiso, welcome to Power Talk.
How's it?
Very well, thank you. How do you do?
I'm doing good. Or should I say, how do you do?
I'm fine.
Okay. My issue is related to human rights issues.
Yes.
In more especially black communities where people are not privy to what is set out there, your ICASA, your Human Rights Commission, your Competition Commission, and all of those institutions that are meant to assist them. For an example, if you go to other communities, you will find that when you're supposed to pay, this happened to me the other day, when you're supposed to pay, somebody would be saying, I'm charging you 3% if you are using a card, right? Does the law allow that to happen? Does the consumer know that you can go to National Consumer Commission and say, there's this practice that you don't understand, can you check for us?
Yeah.
For an example, in the township, not even in the township, everywhere, there are people who are selling illegal SIM cards that are pre-recard, right? Your crime that is being committed is committed because those cards are being used. Do people know about ICASA? Because they can really take ICASA to task.
Yes.
Competition Commission, where somebody will just come and operate alone in a space. I'm sure you know about the Google case that was spoken about. They were fined about 300 million.
Yeah.
So maybe my thinking is fixing the country, probably maybe sometimes think about having a feature called fixing the country, right? Where we are able to say, in this particular community, do you know about Human Rights Commission? Do you know about this? So that all of these institutions, because sometimes they operate in Braamfontein, near Sandton, and you go to Lihurut in Ziras. I don't know if you know what happened in Ziras yesterday. Police were shooting at people. Did know about IP and stuff, right? So my thinking is maybe at some point, let us have a feature where we are able to empower these communities, more especially maybe starting from this month, where we are talking about human rights. Do people really know that there are these institutions set to assist them?
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant one. For black people to take seriously the fact that they've got rights as consumers. You've got the right not to be sold or fake. You've got the right not to be robbed and all of that. I think it's certainly something of great consideration. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mamelodi Sillo. Welcome to Power Talk.
Bafu.
Yebo, unjani?
How's it?
Ngiyaphila.
You're welcome.
Ngiyaleboha.
Bon, I was thinking, I'm sitting here and thinking, right? Because as you came in about the services in hospitals.
Yes.
So now I'm going to take it all over. Because I agree services all over, not only in hospitals.
Yeah.
In any public, in any you go everywhere where there's government people who's finding are very I agree the services, people are not happy. So my mind tells me to say, we, the people of Mzansi, we need to take a decision and take our future in our hands. We need to decide, because remember, we got 9 provinces, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
To say, we on the ground, as an example, we, let's say, on Tshwane, we need to decide, this is party A1 to say, about to rule like EFF. And then go back about to rule like DA. and then the other one is like PA. Everybody, all these parties need to compete for us. We are customers, right?
Yeah.
Whoever is giving us good service at the end of the day, I'm retainer. Because this thing of saying ANC must rule the provinces, we see what is happening. On a province, lowering is before me. So the idea will be to say, people on the ground, we need to decide. People offer one party, no, ANC must rule. ANC has failed for the past 8 years. So what we need to do, let's say the provinces, distribute them among the parties. We choose who we want to be ruled at and say, EFF or ANC, come, rule us. And then at the end of the day or end of the season, we'll be able to see the party.
Got you. We must make a rainbow political party control in South Africa. Got you. Let's give others a chance to come in. I'm inundated with calls here. Ngiyacela nonke asikhipheni 1 minute per person so that we're able to maximize on the conversation. But thank you very much indeed for those thoughts. Let's go to Hunadi from Hardis. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you so much. The good doctor of the airwaves. Thank you. No, you did pronounce it well.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you. Welcome. I just wanted to say welcome to this amazing radio station from Cape to Cairo. And I think, you know what, those open lines, we really want them because most of us, sometimes we wake up not feeling like ourselves, and then you come and you hear the good doctor, you know, saying such a beautiful quote that will just evoke positive emotions for you to look forward to the day, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the pressure is mounting because even those songs, we really want them to be part of that open line.
Got you. Did you like the song today?
And have a successful year with the most amazing radio station on earth.
Thank you. I'm sure the chairman is listening. Thank you very much. Indeed. Let's go to Zukiswa in Pretoria. Zukiswa, welcome to Power Talk.
Hi, Dr. Ndlozi.
Unjani sisi?
Right, unjani?
Nami ndiyaphila Nkosi.
Okay, I'd like you to get me some answers from the SA Post Office. You know, you read in the newspapers that the Post Office is dying, it's in trouble, workers are being retrenched. But when you give the Post Office a chance to trust them with a parcel, you can't get it through. You know, in December, I posted a parcel to my daughter who's in Japan.
Yeah.
I spent months buying stuff that she cannot get in Japan. And she was craving the taste of home. So it was spices, cosmetics, something that she cannot get there. Yeah. And I put them into a parcel and paid 3,700 to board that parcel in December, 19th of December. I've been following up. I've started following up after a month. And then they said, no, it's still here in South Africa. Yesterday, they told it seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth because they are telling me now that I must go back to the post office to fill a missing parcel form. Can you get me answers? I've got the reference number, tracking number. I've been using that to track the parcel.
Nkosi, please stay online. Usisinewa will take the tracking number and we're going to help you track the parcel and see how, even if it's not there, how we can connect you to get your justice. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Thank you very much.
Nkosi Mama. Terrible indeed. Mpumi from Pretoria, welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Dr. Mbuyiseni.
Good morning,
How are you?
Ngiyaphila unjani wena?
Ngiyaphila, thank you. Welcome to the airways.
Thank you.
I've been on leave for the past few weeks, so this is my first day back, and hearing you on the line was such a pleasant surprise.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my thing, I just wanted to suggest that we start the day with feel-good stories.
Got you.
Because I feel, I mean, it's going to happen that we're going to hear a bad story every day. It's now almost consistent, right?
Yeah.
So if we can just start with opening with a good story before we get into all the bad that's happening into the world, that would be a great start to all our day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're getting the fourth vote for good stories, good quotes.
100%.
Yeah, got you. Thank you very much. Lihlonolo in Pretoria. Welcome to Power Talk. Lihlonolo in Pretoria. Welcome to Power Talk. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Welcome to Power Talk, Lihlonolo.
Thanks, man. Yesterday I wanted to express this point when Dr. Ndlozi.
Yes, sir.
I think as a country we need to amplify, as small as it is, the issue of giving our people hopes back. You know, in a sense of a good story, even if we see, all these shenanigans are right in our faces. We cannot afford to lose this country, like I said yesterday.
Yeah.
We are presiding over a beautiful country with many potentials that we could easily elevate our people. For example, in JSE, there is almost 4.5 billion rands of our people that is been unclaimed in terms of dividends for the longest part of time. And now JSE is on a drive to let our people know that they've got money lying there. If you recall, in the early 2000s, maybe you were still at school, but we were investing in company shares that were, on JSE.
Yes.
Now, those monies, some of our people did not claim them. And I can tell you there are people that are right now unemployed. They do not have hope. I just hope they can use that moment to go and check their names over there to claim that 4.5 billion. It belongs to them.
Yeah.
It's one of those good stories that I think we can share. And two, whatever that we see across the country in terms of state capacity collapsing, I still repeat, our brothers and sisters that are working on those departments, they must, every morning, they must tell themselves that whatever that I'm going to give in is what my community will benefit out of it, because failure which this country will collapse and everybody stands to lose, including themselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lihlonolo. That's a vote as well for feel-good stories amplified by actual experiences. Thank you very, very, very much. I want to go to Peggy in Rockville. Peggy, welcome to Power Talk.
How are you, Minier?
I'm fine, thank you. Who handed?
I'm good. I'm good. No, I just wanted to say, I've realized something about this whole noise about the Afro Forum and solidarity.
Yeah.
And that is, white people are allergic to sharing.
Did you say
I don't
allergic?
know why. Yes. Because every time you say, guys, let's share the land, let's share the resources, they call you communist. That means to them, they just want to amass everything for themselves. But once anybody in any country that was colonized by white people, even if it's not in Africa, any country, when you say let's share, they call you a communist. Why? They want to keep everything to themselves. Now, through solidarity, I would say they say now they are against any law that is segregatory, that they want us to be equal. Now, if any of them can say they said the same thing pre-1994, they used to say the very same thing to the apartheid government, then I'll believe them. They want equality now, but they never wanted equality when the white man was in charge pre-1994. They never voiced these sentiments they're voicing now under de Klerk. They never voiced it under Bumalan. Why are they now so passionate about it when they were not passionate about it then? You understand?
Yeah.
So my one thing that I want to say to black people, they must be careful. Apartheid never ended, but it morphed. It moved into these NGOs, about Afro Forum, about Solidarity, and about Freedom Under Law. That's where apartheid is now. And they must be careful of not thinking that these organizations are representing them. They are not.
Got you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Bongani in Mamelodi. Bongani, welcome to Power Talk.
Professor Ndlozi, how are you? I'm positioning myself.
Okay, got you.
I want you to say, after 20 years, this is the man who called me prof. Like
you are projecting. You are calling into a future.
Yes. Dr.
Okay.
Ndlozi, actually, I just want to weigh in on this thing of ANC, where they said KZN and Gauteng, they are reconfiguring the whole thing. But for me, I think they've misdiagnosed everything, because you are like somebody who's fixing the roof, yet the problem of the house is it's the foundation is cracked. The reason I'm saying that, I'm from Mamelodi. I can tell you, those cadres those councillors that been deployed on the grassroots.
Yeah.
I can tell you, those guys are so corrupt. Now, for me, if all these parties can just concentrate on the grassroots, making sure that service delivery, especially in townships, it's done, because ANC is focusing top, yet on the ground, people ask every day, we can see what's happening. And Dr. Ndlozi, if you can help me, the day you have a conversation with these hospital managers, one thing you can ask for them, what is the problem about them not fixing the toilets? I'm just trying to understand, whose job is it? Why all these most of these hospitals? And the recent I've been to Watu traffic department, I can tell you, you go to their, actually there's no bathroom anymore. And those days, those bathrooms used to be nice. Grass has covered the whole place. You go inside the facility, there are no toilets, nothing is happening. Now I'm getting to ask myself, as a station manager, if you cannot fix just a mere toilet, yet you've been tasked with a big job and you're failing with fixing a toilet, for me, that's a problem. It is a problem.
100% agreed.
For me, that's my way in today. Thanks, Prof. Ndlozi.
100% agreed. Thank you very much. That's Bongani from Mamelodi. Please stay with us, with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, on Power Talk. We're going to take the headlines with Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Good morning. In news making headlines, the Johannesburg High Court is set to finalize the Kia Mbulawa murder case this morning. A 4-year-old Mbulawa was dragged and placed inside a traveler's bag. The crime occurred last year in Soweto by Nonhlelelwa Mutsebula. The child died in hospital due to injuries she sustained while she was stashed inside the bag. A 34-year-old was renting a room in the same yard as Mbulawa's mother. Mbulawa family spokesperson, Advocate Milamwela, demands justice for the child.
Families of Mbulawa and Sirungwane have waited too long for the trial to begin. Families are in pain trying to understand why someone who was known by little Kia and the family for a period of 2 years decided to cut her life in such a brutal manner.
The Department of Health will begin consultations this week with organizations affected by the U.S. decision to freeze and cut funding for HIV/AIDS and TB programs. The consultations aim to assess the full impact and plan necessary government interventions. U.S. President Donald Trump's 90-day freeze on foreign programs have hit South Africa hard, impacting multiple sectors even as limited funding is being restored. In a statement, the department emphasized its appreciation for the country for contributions of those organizations to the country's HIV/AIDS and TB responses. More on these and other power stories at 10 o'clock.
Power traffic. A very good morning to you. Let's check out what's happening in your roads. If you're traveling on the M1 northbound, you can expect delays as you're passing Boyson's Road, headed towards the double-decker section. The M2 westbound is very slow as well. Those delays are between Heidelberg and the Crown interchange. If you're traveling on Main Reef Road eastbound in Crown City, you can expect a queue for about 20 minutes, with those delays starting shortly after you pass the Nazareth Road intersection, heading all the way up towards joining the M2 highway. Main Reef Road westbound also slow as you're approaching the Langlaagte License Department as you're coming off the M2 highway. Several traffic lights are out around the city of Johannesburg this morning. If you're traveling on Jan Smuts Avenue, those traffic lights are out in Hyde Park at Winnie Mandela. Traffic lights also out in Melrose, at Athol, Oaklands and Corlett. If you are traveling on Republic Road in Randburg, those traffic lights are out at the Kent Avenue intersection. N1 southbound is still very slow, approaching the Winnie Mandela Drive exit. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebogang Phukela.
Power Traffic.
Power Drive with Thabiso Kotane.
Yes, sir.
But you remember one day I raised an issue that we are hosting this G20, but our cities, the most...
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the G20? The Johannesburg Mayor, Dada Morero, said, and I quote, "We have prioritized certain routes within Johannesburg, which are G20 routes, to ensure that at least we can make them to be at the standard they should be. No potholes, no traffic signals that are not working." So they are fixing these problems so that the G20 leaders could enjoy our roads. So they only prioritize fixing them because of I find this highly condescending. It was also in our news, by the way, this particular story.
It's a very sorry state of affairs, really.
Got you. Thank you, my brother.
Power Drive, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. on Power 98.7.
Power Drive was proudly brought to you by the Road Accident Fund. Your trip shouldn't end with RIP. The Road Accident Fund, an entity of the Department of Transport.
The Hatfield Motor Group is thrilled to bring you BYD Woodmead, where innovation meets affordability. BYD stands for Build Your Dreams, and we're here to make that a reality. Experience the future of driving with the BYD range, including the dynamic Atto 3, the versatile Dolphin, and the sleek newly launched Seal. Visit BYD Woodmead today and take your next step towards electric excellence. HatfieldGroup.co.za, rated #1 in service. Build your dreams with BYD.
Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, where your voice is heard and opinion matters.
We're still on the open line here on Power Talk, and I want to encourage our sisters out there. The open lines are yours. Power Talk is yours. Do not just listen. Tell us what you think. Don't let the men do the talking only. And with that, I go to Nosipo and Kimberly. Welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the airways, good doctor.
Of course.
Before my lament, I wanted to actually say I thoroughly enjoyed the interview or the reunion you had with Tracy yesterday.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, so I wanted to call following one of the callers who expressed the fact that as consumers we should know our rights and that we should find a way of fighting back. But I wanted to say that it's not easy. Currently, I'm being bullied literally by a big company. I purchased a vehicle on the 21st of Jan, brand new, 0 kilometers. 2 weeks later, telling me that I needed to replace something and. They took it back. Long and short of it is that now that I tell them that I know my rights, that I have 6 weeks to say if I'm not happy and if the vehicle is giving problems. Wow. They're literally telling me that, no, I can't do that. They have replaced, highlight that, they have replaced the parts that were giving problems and they want to send the car back to me and I should take it just like that. So I'm just saying that even though we know our rights as consumers, big corporate bullies you when they know that you do not have a lawyer and you are not able to have the funds to fund the case against them. So, yeah, it's a nightmare. If power can help me, I'll be grateful. Currently, I'm just between a wing and prayer because they're telling me that, no, they're coming to fetch their car today. They will not cancel the contract. And I must be happy to part with over $1 million for a brand new car that's already giving me problems, and I must pay for it until it's finished. Thank you, good doctor, for listening.
Please hold on. Neo is going to talk to you. We're going to see if we can connect you to some lawyer. I'm sure that we've got people online who are listening, who are lawyers. And I'm sure we have community spirit. This is the sense of building a common. Please stay online and let's see if we can find you help. Thank you so much, Nosipo, from Kimberley. We're going to go to Smangaliso Emalahleni. Smangaliso, welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Yes, welcome to Power Talk. Good morning.
Yes, I'm interested on fixing a day for innovative thoughts. Innovative thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, for instance, relating to how the South African flag was created, I've got an idea about electricity generation, environmentally friendly, that is. Now, if maybe there could be a competition as to people bringing in ideas of electricity generation, and then maybe take it from there. The experts probably would take those ideas, put something up, stick something up, and then probably a new creation would be made in South Africa for electricity generation.
Yeah. Okay. Powerful suggestion there.
Yet there are these other ideas, that we have. For instance, talk about a Kasi Lamakasi award, whereby townships compete against each other in self-economic development. And then there's an award, like a football award at the end of the year, or for the best Kasi, called Kasi Lamakasi award. We've got such kind of innovations ourselves, but we don't know how to go about them and make them work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Smangaliso from Emalahleni. Boniswa from Tembisa, welcome to Power Talk. Hello, Boniswa.
Hey, I hope you're well.
I'm good. We just started hearing you at the end of your sentence there, but welcome to Power Talk.
Yes, I just wanted to just make some hype on the radio, like bring a feel-good vibe. Boo, 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 boo.
Okay.
Yeah, rise and shine, grand rising. And just to add to the sentiment of positive vibes, I'm all about positivity. And just sharing like those good frequencies and good vibrations, but also as a person who's into health and nutrition, to add on, if you want to feel good, you honestly need to eat good. So part of our mental health and how we feel starts with what we fuel our bodies with. So gut health is absolutely important for mental health. I had, for example, sorghum porridge this morning with sea moss, moringa and salsa powder, no sugar. Stay away from sugar. That's like absolutely dangerous. Had a great gym session, hydrated, and that's just part of the things that you just sort of add to your routine, to pump your body with those feel-good vibes.
So that you're ready to meet any challenge.
You know what I mean? If I could sing, I would sing something, I wish I could give away moringa powder because I feel good.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Have an excellent day yourself. And a day full of positive energy. Nare from Blairgory. Welcome to Power Talk.
Yes, hi, I'm Ndlozi.
Yes, Puti, how are you?
Hi, sharp. Well, the other day I heard of you were talking about, you read a lot, and I was surprised because you were talking about reading some rabbinic books like the Talmud, and I forgot the other book. Look, I wanted to recommend you to read one of the greatest book in the history of the Bible. It's called the Ecclesiastic History of the Church.
Muekelesia.
Yes. Yes, by Eusebius of Caesarea. It was written 200 and something years and 300 by a guy by Eusebius. So he spoke about how, if you remember in the Bible, Jesus spoke about the temple being destroyed, and he was saying, some of you're going to see this. And people, those who are in Jerusalem, they should not come, and they should move out. Those who are out of Jerusalem, they cannot. that happened in AD 70. You understand? He documented some of those things as well. Even talk about Constantine. I don't know, you know, the Emperor Constantine and his mother as well. She was a Christian. How she influenced him to be a Christian, because he was not a Christian. And how the books were put together in the gospel, they were put together by a guy called Athanasius. And it's a very interesting book, and how the Old Testament was not part of the gospel, how it was added about by a bishop called Melito, who went to Jerusalem, and then he discovered about the Old Testament. They didn't even know. The early Christians didn't even know about the Old Testament. So it's a very interesting book. You should look at.
Thank you. Will do. I'll share my thoughts as soon as I get a hold of it. Thank you very much. Let's go to Kevin in Nkomazi. Kevin, welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you, Doctor. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well, brother. How do you do?
I'm very, very, very well, my brother. Yeah, it's a heavy one. I heard you talking about the situation about the hospitals.
Yeah.
Those that are not receiving food and water. Doctor, I don't know actually where we have lost it. I don't know whether was it on the Zuma era or the Mbeki era. I cannot be sure about it. But I feel like we totally have lost it. And it's becoming a very difficult problem to society. Like right now in my area in Nkomazi, there is this situation of they are removing supermarkets that are close to the roads. They are telling them that they should be removed. And then they are being removed by the municipality.
Yeah.
It's the one that is busy removing them. So they're saying that those people should no longer sell those vegetables or little things that they are getting in order for them to survive. You see how sad it is? Because now those people are going to be staying at home. Kids are not going to be able to eat. And then the next thing we say, there is high crime rate in South Africa. The ones that are creating it ourselves. Because obviously, if you cannot do something, in order to start a business, you need a little capital. Right now, if you are not working, you go to the bank, you ask for a loan. The bank is definitely not going to give you a loan, because even your account was last having money maybe 3 months ago, or you never even had money at all, because you cannot earn something. But if you are trying, in this world that we are living in, or maybe let me put it, in this country, it's like we are enjoying oppressing people that are trying.
Got you.
And I don't get it. How? Where are we losing it? Because for now, if you cannot be able to give our own people food in hospitals, those that are dying, those that are sick, it's a huge problem to our society. And our leaders, I don't get it. How are some ignoring it? Because, okay, maybe some of them are staying in towns, in better places, but why are they forgetting about these very same people that are going to be needing them in order when elections are going to be coming? Because if elections are coming, they're going to be going house to house, washing clothes, cleaning houses. But once everything is done, it's over. And I don't get it. Why are we oppressing ourselves like this? Even for us as people, as young people, having a dream while we are living in a society like this, it's a problem, because you don't get inspiration sometimes. Because the very same people that are supposed to inspire you, once they maybe get a chance, maybe get a better job, he leaves the society, goes somewhere in order for him to avoid the situation that is happening. Because if your neighbor is not working, or his kids are not working, and you are working, it's a problem. Because obviously when they're hungry, they're going to come and want to get food from you. Thank you, Doctor. It's Kevin from Mpumalanga.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed for those reflections. Let's take Mama Alita from Tembisa. Mama, welcome to Power Talk.
Hi, Mbuyiseni. How are you, boy?
I'm fine, Mom. How are you?
I love you to pieces.
I love you too, Mama.
Oh, my God. Even your voice, Oh. The humility that you have. We talk of voicing, even in his voice. Doctor.
Yes, Mom.
My concern is this cancellation USAID. To say, the whole of Africa, we are under, the program. And we in South Africa, we are regarded as, America of Africa. So with this cancellation, the whole of our brothers and sisters are going to come down to us here for help, while the little we had is being taken off.
Yeah.
And then apparently each and every country must look after his or her own people. Because we used to get help. Now the help is gone.
Yes.
And then even before the time when we had this help, everybody used to come to South Africa.
Yes.
You know, for better life and
Yes.
for health services. Now that the help is gone, yo country ya rena everybody is going to come and our borders are porous. They will be coming for medication this side, and then we'll be not having enough. My heart stopped and say, "Yo,
yeah.
Where are we heading to? Because that help, it's gone, it's finished." And then everybody, and this HIV, it's all over our continent here. People will be coming for help this side.
Yes.
Aye, all right, Papa. All right. Welcome.
Thank you, Mama.
I love you to pieces, Wanaka.
Thank
Keep
you.
Up that personality.
We love you too. I love you
just
too.
like words to express.
Thank you. I appreciate it deeply.
Bless
Thanks,
Papa.
Everybody wants to hear positive energy, and you've given me a lot of it, despite the horrendous reality created.
Personality.
But
okay. I can actually see your parents, how you're brought up.
Thank you so much,
No,
Ma.
all right, Papa. Pass
Okay,
it to your
Mama.
kids and your family.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, have an
Bless.
excellent day.
Bless.
All right, we move to Brian Sami. Brian Sami in Pretoria. Thank you for holding. Welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Very well, brother. How do you do?
No, I'm happy even to pronounce it very well because just on, I have about 3 points that I want to make here. And the first one will be the introduction statement, because you said you need to maybe give our view in relation to that.
Yes.
So I think what you can do, you can bless us what you call, because we have power manifesto, you can just give us a power sermon immediately after that. So that one will be, because you are knowledgeable, you can just give an overview of what you've observed and apply your mind on it without being conclusive, so that we can give also our, just like you did today, but apply your mind, because remember, in this case, you're a special one because you've ran the government, you've been part of the government, so you can give your perspective without necessarily saying, no, I know everything, just to give it about 5 minutes of your opening statement, depending on the time you're going to allocate there. So we will. I appreciate that. Then moving to the second point, there is a caller who just spoke about the books.
Yeah.
And that is very important. I've not been listening to radio for quite some time. I just came back for you. So what is happening is that there is a need for a book review. Last week, if I'm not mistaken, you were in conversation with Prof. Achille Mbembe.
Yes.
And in that, when you talk about apartheid Africa, after South Africa, you were making a reference to a book. And I can say, when you were speaking there, you were making that a reference to a book. So if there can be a segment, maybe 15 minutes before 12, I don't know, where we can also share the books, the way you did, to say, okay, I've read this book, it gives an overview of this, what happened. And maybe if there is someone who wrote that book, can just come and maybe give us a sense of what they were saying, just like you're going to do with the guy who wrote Yizo Yizo, just to give us a sense of exactly what is that they wanted to tell.
Gotcha.
Now, just to close so that I give others a chance.
Please.
The registration of sponsor shops in South Africa, let me commend South Africa for doing that, but it's not going to solve the problem, the counterfeit goods. What South Africa needs to do, they know where the things are. So what they can maybe collaborate with your Coca-Cola and your Nike. They go to Maraba Strat and Small Street, and then they're going to say, no, these are not our products. we didn't do this, so that we know exactly what to do.
Thank you very much, Ntate Sami. Let's take one more call. Moera in Midrand, you've been holding for a while. Welcome to Power Talk. If you've just joined us, this is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We're on the open line 0861987000. You can send us WhatsApp voice notes on 0833037093. Join the conversation on all social media platforms with the hashtag Power Talk. Moera in Midrand, welcome to Power Talk. Good morning, brother. Good morning.
I want to take up 2 points with you, my brother. First point is, what is the age restriction for parliamentarians, NPLs, and councillors?
In terms of what?
In terms of them serving in those Augusto houses.
You mean age restriction like how young you must be or how old you must be?
How old you must be. Because we apply labor relations act, but it doesn't apply to new parliamentarians or those parliamentarians and those who serve in legislatures and council.
Mm-hmm.
One that I want us to have a national framework that can say, look, when you're 60, political parties must not actually deploy you in those houses. Because really what we see there is not on.
That means Mandela would have not been the president in 1994. Do you notice?
Look, that's what we've learned from. And we are saying, going forward as a country, let's try and have something that will give us a guidance.
Got you.
That's number one. Number two, I want us to invite people from NYDA.
Yeah.
With a view of what Ndlozi has done to these people, they have opened up the eyes of South Africans that people are employed there because of comradeship.
Yes.
That people are there who are not qualified. I mean, we have a person who was the head of research who doesn't have those qualifications. It's a concern to the country. So I invite those guys to come to the studio so that we can engage and interrogate to understand exactly how are they doing the appointments there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Moera. We'll do so. Powerful topic there about not just the one NYDA, most of these government institutions. We must interrogate together as a community to what extent are they doing what they're supposed to do, to what extent the appointments have been based on meritocracy. Makuntle Nsibukeng, welcome to Power Talk.
Hey, Doctor, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Ke re no ke phone le nna ko Leboise ngwane sumane ka go join ko Power Family. Doctor, I'm gonna be too quick.
Yes.
There's two previous callers and Nare, I can't remember the name of the other gentleman who suggested a book review or segment. So now I just want to add my 2 cents in that and say, can we also combine it with poetry, like something like a poetry session? Maybe the producers, once you guys have talked about it, you will check whether it can be a feature that's going to last for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. But our book review, maybe if you're going to have it on first night, like maybe not each and every Friday, but can we feature poetry there, man, and then give our sisters and our brothers in that space.
Are you a poet?
Because no, I'm not, but I follow it. Yeah,
I got you.
Yes, it's all right. No, thanks, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Makuntle from Sebokeng. Let's go to Pretoria. Maputi, welcome to Power Talk.
Hello, Doctor. How are you?
Very well. Thank you. How do you do?
I'm cool, Doctor. Doctor, I'm having 2 concerns, man. The first one, I want to talk about the postponed budget speech.
Yes.
And the last one is about the government of national confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm having a problem with the budget speech to say, come the 12th March, what if maybe those relevant parties didn't agree? What is going to happen on that? Because I was having a problem previously to say, actually, the Minister of Finance was supposed to table the budget speech in the Parliament, and then it's up to the parliamentary to debate about it, whether they reject it or they don't reject it. But anyway, I don't know if they will manage to agree before the minister tables it. That's the concern about the budget. And the other fact that I want to talk about is concerning the budget speech is the government financial institutions, because I see danger there of stealing money before the budget presented on the 12th. Because this is the chance for those money monkers, for those people who used to steal the government's money, because the budget is not yet presented. So I see danger going ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Maputi.
Yeah, and then I'm also
I've got to thank you there. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry to cut you. We have to squeeze in a lot of these WhatsApp voice notes, and then we'll take the news at the top of the hour. Sorry very much, Maputi. I'm sure you'll have another chance. Let's take the voice notes.
Dr. Ndlozi, my brother. Well, perhaps I must start by indicating that I am not necessarily a Power FM listener, but ever since I learned that you have joined the station, I have permanently migrated to Power FM. All the best, my brother. We support your work through and through.
Good morning, Dr. Ndlozi. I hear you complaining about hospitals. You know, if we are not standing up as South Africans, we are still going to have problems with our hospitals, because our hospitals are here in South Africa, but they are helping the whole continent. They are not our hospitals. They are the hospitals of the whole continent. People are coming all the way from Nigeria to get free services here in South Africa without even documentation. Now, many hospitals doesn't have food because the budget doesn't count these illegal foreigners. Budget only counts South Africans. So we need to stand up and fight these illegal foreigners who are going to our hospitals.
Good morning, the good Dr. Ndlozi, Mirakotan, Pretoria. The good doctor, I think on the opening remarks, we should talk about what is currently happening in our communities, in our workplace, wherever, where our frustration with regard to the government. I think if we can always talk about that, it will help. Mirakota Dango.
What is the relevance of an opening statement? That is the question. And at least when I listen to other radio hosts, it's a reminder that they are human. It's a reminder that they are part of our community, be it international, global, or even as remote as, something you experience in traffic or your personal home. More than anything, it allows me as a listener to follow your trail of thought, at least with the law or even with issues of morals in our society. You should consider one. This is Rams from Pretoria.
Thank you very much for those voice notes. This is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We're going to take the news at the top of the hour with Nyakalo Tefu.
Power News.
Thanks, Mbuyiseni. The top stories at this hour: as the Sasa Gold Card swap looms, beneficiaries are urged not to panic should they miss the deadline, and the Johannesburg High Court is set to finalize Kia Mbulawa's murder case this morning. With the news at 10, a very good morning to you. I'm Nyakalo Tefu. The South African Post Bank, together with the South African Social Security Agency, says beneficiaries who have not yet migrated to the new black cards will still be able to use their Sasa Gold cards until the deadline of March 20th. The two entities say beneficiaries will still be able to perform all enabled transactions, such as withdrawals of cash at ATMs, making balance inquiries, printing statements, and cash withdrawals over the till in all retailers. The Sasa Gold cards will officially be disabled on March 20th at 5 o'clock. It is only beyond 20 March 2025 that beneficiaries will no longer be able to use their Sasa gold cards for any transactions. However, the Post Bank and Sasa assure beneficiaries who may miss the deadline that they will continue to be paid their social grants through alternative methods. Sasa spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi says both entities are ready for the expected influx as the deadline draws nearer.
Post Bank it is ready. We have daily meetings with them, and they have indicated basically to us that they are trying everything in their power to make sure that they help people to make sure that they swap the cards, because they understand. Remember, as much as the clients or the beneficiaries get money from Post Bank, they remain the beneficiaries of the South African Social Security Agency, and we have an interest to make sure that their plight is being attended to.
In the courts, the Johannesburg High Court is set to finalize the Kia Mbulawa murder case this morning. 4-year-old Mbulawa was drugged and placed inside a traveller's bag by Nontlelelwa Matsebola. The crime occurred last year in Soweto. The child died in hospital due to injuries she sustained while she was stashed inside the bag. Matsebola is an undocumented Eswatini national. The 34-year-old was renting a room in the same yard as Mbulawa's mother. Mbulawa family spokesperson Mila Muela demands justice.
Families of Mbulawa and Serungwane have waited too long for the trial to begin. Families are in pain trying to understand why someone who was known by little Kia and the family for a period of 2 years decided to cut her life in such a brutal manner.
Still in the courts, a 26-year-old male suspect is set to appear in the Leboakgomo Magistrates Court this morning. This after being arrested for possession and dealing in drugs by the Limpopo Provincial Flying Squad unit. The suspect was arrested yesterday evening during an operation in Leboakgomo. Limpopo's Colonel Malisela Ledwaba says while on patrol, officers noticed his suspicious behavior and pounced on him.
Officers on patrol noticed his suspicious behavior at Zone R and conducted a stop and search. Upon searching him, police discovered crystal meth drugs with an estimated street value of 1,000 rand. The suspect was immediately placed under arrest. Police investigations continue.
And newly elected leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Corneille Mulder, believes AfriForum and Solidarity are not guilty of treason. This comes after the Hawks announced they would investigate 4 high treason cases involving organizations accused of spreading misinformation about South Africa's Expropriation Act in the United States. The investigation follows complaints, including from the MK party. Mulder argued that the Hawks have no case to investigate, as he explained that treason involves actions such as trying to overthrow the government or assassinate a monarch, which in his view is not what these organizations have done. Recently, AfriForum has been criticized for meeting with the Trump administration. However, its CEO, Kali Kriel, argued it was part of their effort to protect Afrikaner rights amid no response from the presidency.
So we've tried, we have a clean conscience, and of course the president's spokesperson, before we left, he said, the president will not speak to AfriForum and Solidarity. So what more proof do we need than the official spokesperson of the president saying that? So our conscience is clean. We try to discuss locally. But if the president had a change of heart and he now wants to solve these issues locally, we are more than willing. We will be looking forward to enter into these discussions.
A look at your financial indicators. The rand is trading at 18 rand 44 cents to the US dollar, 23 rand 62 cents to the pound, 19 rand 64 cents to the euro. Gold's trading at $2,915.16 a fine ounce. Our Brent crude oil is at $71.08 a barrel. Recapping the top story in pioneers at this hour, as the Sasa gold card swap looms, beneficiaries are urged not to panic should they miss the deadline.
In power traffic, if you're traveling on the M1 southbound, there's some slow-moving traffic to still expect as you are headed towards the double-decker section. On the N3 southbound, the traffic is very slow at the moment in Linbro Park. Those delays start shortly after you join the N3 south from the Buccleuch interchange, with that pressure clearing just after the Marlborough Drive exit. If you are traveling on Main Reef Road eastbound in Crown City, traffic is still backed up as you're traveling past the Langlaagte License Department. You'll bump into those delays. They clear just after Church Street.
Power News. On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
This is Power 98.7. And now you're listening to Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday, taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
That's Sankomota. That sound is Sankomota. Welcome back to Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Studio line 0861987000. WhatsApp line 0833037093. Join the conversation through social media hashtag Power Talk. And follow Power FM on Power FM 987 on X or Twitter. We're going to have a conversation with the legendary Angus Gibson. He's here in studio. Want to frame the conversation about film being part of an driver of economic growth as an industry. These people that you see on TV in stories, they actually contribute to the economy, and they contribute across the world. For an example, in our country, 2.7% of our country's GDP includes a contribution generally in the creative industry, and at the center of that is film, with over 25,000 jobs in China. They contribute approximately $38 billion US. In the US, they contribute 4.3% of the GDP. That's about $93 billion. The industry called the film industry is actually very industrious. And I've got here Angus Gibson. Angus Gibson is the creator, producer, director of some of the most famous stories, some of the most impactful stories in framing post-apartheid South Africa. And he's been doing and working on film before that. But Yizo Yizo, from Yizo Yizo, which is a big, big name, big impact for me in my campus or in my schoolyard in 1997. Those characters in Yizo Yizo began to play themselves out in the schoolyard. To Shaka Ilembe, welcome to Power Talk.
It's very good to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How have you been? How's the Shaka Lembe? Are you in post production now?
I'm in post on the second season, and I'm on pre-production of the third season.
Wow!
So I'm editing episode 11 of second season, and I am going straight from here to a story meeting with historians where we are. The thing about the third season, it's the first time that they're white people kind of that enter.
Oh, yeah.
So we are in big debate as to how present they will be and how we will represent them and what the characters are.
As colonizers.
Well, as colonizers, but in fact, a sort of a bunch of hustlers, basically. That kind of are kind of on the side of the colonizers, trying to do their own thing.
Got you.
So that's like today's discussion, in fact. Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, I'm gonna do a back and forth together with you. How does it work? Why Shaka Ilembe as a story? How does it work? How does that decision come? This is the time to tell this story. In many ways, to retell it at the back of many great films about it. But as a story, how does that come? What happens to that decision of this is the time for this story today, and we're going to frame it this way?
Okay, so I suppose as BOM, our thing has always been like not to try and repeat ourselves, to do things that are kind of different to what other people are doing. And quite a long time ago, we thought what we wanted to do was to do some pre-colonial narratives. Mm-hmm. So before the arrival of the colonizers. Mm-hmm. So because there's just not enough kind of imagination of what that world was.
Lovely.
So, so the idea was, let's do a series of narratives about obscure figures in the different provinces of the country. So we thought, well, we could partner with the provinces, partner with the Eastern Cape and do something around the frontiers, partner, in the north, do something around Majaji or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we spoke to Mnet about it at the time, and they were very excited. And in fact, I met with Jacob Zuma when he was, I think he was just about to campaign he was campaigning for a second term.
Got you.
And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, no, it's a good idea." He said, "Look, I can introduce you to all the heads of the department and everything, but they're going to look at you and they're going to say, yeah. And all they're going to be thinking is, am I going to have my job in the second term?" So he said, "Come back in the second term and we can speak again," which I never did. But anyway, then it's cut a long story short. Mnet then sort of broadly commissioned a number of pre-colonial things, which I think, If You Like Here and that sort of thing came up. And we were a little miffed because it had been our sort of initiative, and we weren't sure why they were making it a broad initiative. Mm-hmm. And we didn't even pitch. And then they came to us and said, "Will you do Shaka Ilembe?" And I thought, well, that's kind of exactly what I don't want to do, because, first of all, he's been so there's so much material about him, and people feel so passionately about him. I thought all we're going to do is dig a hole for ourselves, because, like this, if you start doing any research, there's so many different versions of every single narrative. You kind of think, well, if I choose this one, there's going to be somebody else saying, "My grandfather told me that, this is what happened." But anyway, so that was quite a while back. And then we started doing research. And I suppose what really interested me was the Nguni world around Shaka. Yeah. And I felt like there was no representation of that whatsoever. So, in fact, if you really think about the first season of Shaka Ilembe, Shaka's not the main character. I mean, if you had to choose a main character, it's possibly Nandi, and it is Dingaswayo, Godongwana, Dingaswayo. And maybe Zwide. So, we were able to provide a world into a space that had just not been depicted on television.
How does that go? So, just because you're speaking about research, what's the general attitude in the industry? I mean, it took you 2 years, I'm told, the research phase of Shaka Ilembe.
Longer. Yeah.
Just break that down for us. What are you looking for, and who are you working with? Because it looks like there is this sub-industry to the film called research, which is magnanimous in and of itself.
Yeah. So I literally employed people to read. So what I was wanting to do was to find every possible description of Shaka. in every contradiction, you know. So, and we would gather them and put them together. I would look for every possible representation of the relationship between Shaka and Senzo Akona. And so when we made a choice, and in fact that was a hugely debated narrative in the room, in the writers' room, because there are many accounts that suggest that Senzo Akona tried to kill Shaka 2 or 3 times in his life. And if you read Mazisi Kuneni, the Emperor Shaka the Great, he documents, well, he speaks of 3 attempts to kill Shaka, which of course is great drama, because, you know, the central conflict of the first season is father and son. And eventually, you know, I of course was going for that drama, and we had in the room a guy called Nhlanhla Mtaka, who is an advisor to the Zulu King and who is quite an extraordinary Zulu intellectual. And he argued strongly against these narratives. And he felt, you know, he said there's always been this tradition of princes leaving the royal house. And I conceded to him. But I suppose that's a microcosm of the many debates that we had. You know, for example, did Jobe kill all his sons?
Yes.
So in fact, we went to the person who at the time was considered the head of the Mtetwa household and said to him, what is your version of this? And I remember we went and he made a meal for us and he said, it's true, he killed all his sons, you know. So we kind of accepted his version. And that's, you know, so we employ quite a lot of people in that process. And of course, you know, we travel, we go to places, we go and try and find representations of the family. We are trying to explore oral history.
Does this include costume research?
No, costume research, that's a whole other thing.
It's different
from the whole other department. Yeah.
And but who are these people? I'm trying to think, are these like interns? Are these... I know the subject is like old voices, it's people in the royal family and all of that, but who are these researchers? I mean,
so if I'm
to imagine a person like
so Shelley Nyati is the genius behind the wardrobe in our in Shaka Lembe, and she did extensive research. She traveled, she met with people that was, you know, craftspeople that were still working in these mediums, and you know, it's a combination. I suppose we, as a whole, across the board, we believe in bringing together people with fresh ideas and new talent, kind of giving people first opportunity and putting them next to people that have long experience.
Got you.
But I kind of feel that the rub between those two things generates great things. So Shelley had a long period of research, and the truth is, you know, I think that, I mean, I found out things yesterday about this historical, because we found a document yesterday that explains a whole lot of things that we didn't know before. So, I mean, you know, 6 years into the process, we're still researching.
Gotcha. So research sort of moves even as the show is on TV already.
Yeah, and the same with the makeup department. Queen, who's the genius in our makeup department, she's constantly researching. She's constantly bringing me pictures she's found from sort of 19th century Central Africa or whatever, and we sort of have the debate. Shall we borrow from Central Africa and put it in our landscape here?
Those hairstyles, for instance.
Well, so those hairstyles,
very exotic,
those hairstyles, are from photographs, in fact.
I see.
But the photographs were taken in 1860. So the question is, were those were those hairstyles around in 1790?
Yes.
And in fact, I have historians who have said to me, it's rubbish. The hairstyles weren't like that in 1790. But I said to them, how do you know? There's no visual representation.
Yeah.
How do you know that they weren't there? And the truth is, what is clear is that appearance and beauty were extraordinarily high on the agenda, and people were very conscious of how they looked, and so why would they not have been there? You know.
If you've just joined us now, we are in a conversation with the great Angus Gibson here on Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, and we are talking about film. Let's go back to 1994 and the post 1994. This huge project called Yizo Yizo.
Right.
Tebogo Mahlatsi took me through how he actually used to go to schools, sit with a book in the toilets and so on and so forth to try and paint the world of Yizo Yizo. Same question.
Yeah.
What was behind Yizo Yizo? This is the story, and this is the story that we must frame in this way in 1997, I think.
Okay.
Of course, I think it started way before, but take us there.
Okay, so in 1994, I was doing a documentary on Nelson Mandela. And Tebogo Mahlatsi had been an intern and was working with me on that project. And then I went to New York to do all the post-production on the project, which just took forever. So when I came back, I touched base with Tebogo and I said, hey, shall we try and do something together? And it was in that moment of sort of, the Rainbow Nation. And there was those castle adverts with, everybody, white people around black people. And
Castle is the beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, this is not the way South Africa is, in fact. And we kind of wanted to do a project that really sort of kicked that notion in the pants. And he and I wrote a project called Street Bash, which was, it took place, it was very much a sort of quite a generation project. It took place over one night when there's a street bash on this particular street in Mzimhlophe, I think it was that we set it in. It was a pretty bleak. It was very funny. It was very violent, and it was pretty bleak. And a guy called Isaac Shongwe was, I think you should know.
Yeah?
Yeah, was funding us at the time. And I eventually I finished the script and I gave it to Isaac and I said, Isaac, okay, read it. And he read it and he came back. He was like completely ashen. And he said, I like to think of myself as somebody that builds. And I cannot think of a single thing that builds in this narrative. So we were like, oh my God, this is the guy that's been paying our bills and everything. And we felt very guilty about it. I still think it's a very good script, though. Anyway, Isaac came to us and said, hey, there's this education program. Why don't you try and do something that builds, to give back kind of thing? And why don't you try and write that? So that's how we started. Tebogo and I started writing Yizo Yizo.
You're trying to give back.
Trying to give back.
How did that go?
Well,
Yizo Yizo was, and I'm thinking in general terms, of course, that's the big fascination. But when I look at the body of your work, violence is an important theme.
Yeah.
Particularly Yizo Yizo. Particularly at that time. This is the violence of all your works. driven by school-going kids. How was that giving back in 1994?
Well, I suppose Isaac asked the same question. So, I mean, let me just take you, when we were writing Street Bash, in fact, so Tebogo and I started thinking, okay, what are we going to write? And I was interested in writing a project which was partly set in the township and partly set sort of outside the township in the 1980s. And I soon became aware that I knew what was going on, but in fact, he was a generation behind me, and he didn't. So I thought, okay, this is not working. And he said, actually, what's not out there is like B movies, like real kind of unpretentious, gritty, where people are just like speaking the way they speak, swearing the way they swear, fighting the way they fight. It's like there's nothing out there like that.
In the world represented the way they
are. That was what Street Bash was. And the spirit of Street Bash kind of went into Yizo Yizo. And I think that the service of Yizo Yizo was that there was nothing on television that truly represented an urban black world. Let's face it.
Well, so you had, it seems to me, I mean, this is a total created work. This is unlike Shaka Ilembe. You are battling with the past. We are battling with history. Yeah. These characters were real. Tingan, so these characters were real. In Yizo Yizo, these are characters in your head that you bring into life, into dialogue with what is existing there.
Not so much.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose, both Tebogo and I come out of documentary backgrounds. So the real world is something that is always very present in what we do, and certainly what we do in fiction. And the great thing about Yizo was that we literally spent a year researching it. And it is based very much on anecdote, on things that we found out, like, Tebogo going into that school and somebody showing him a hand grenade in his lunchbox kind of thing, sort of. And so, for example, somebody coming back from the school and saying, hey, there's the thug in the school is called Papa Action, and so sort of Papa Action went up on the wall, and then it was Mtutuzeli Machoba said, but his partner should be called Chester for some reason. I don't know why we landed on Chester, but I mean, the point was that they were characters rooted in research. So they weren't.
But they were fictive.
They were fictive, yes. And I mean, the truth is that to claim that Shaka Ilembe is authentic is rubbish, because there's such holes in the research, and there's such holes in the history back in the 18th century that, of course, we are. I mean, what I'm saying is I have a quest to make things as realistic as possible. But I also have a quest. I want the world to be beautiful. I want the world to be dignified. This is in Shaka Ilembe. Whereas in Yizo...
Hold that thought. I want to see how we're going to reconcile fiction and history in Shaka Ilembe. Let's take the headlines. Welcome to Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We're going to take the headlines with Nyakalo Tefu.
Thanks, Mbuyiseni. Good morning once again. In news-making headlines at this hour, the South African Post Bank, together with the South African Social Security Agency, says beneficiaries who have not yet migrated to the new black cards will still be able to use their Sasa gold cards until the deadline of March 20th. The two entities say beneficiaries will still be able to perform all-enabled transactions such as withdrawals, have cash at ATMs, and making balance inquiries, printing statements, payments and cash withdrawals over the till in all retailers. The Sasa Gold cards will officially be disabled on March 20th at 5 o'clock. However, the Post Bank and Sasa assure beneficiaries who may miss the deadline that they will continue to be paid their social grants through alternative methods. Sasa spokesperson Baseka Letsatsi says both entities are ready for the expected influx as the deadline draws nearer.
Post Bank is ready. We have daily meetings with them, and they have indicated basically to us that they are trying everything in their power to make sure that they help people to make sure that they swap the cards, because they understand. Remember, as much as the clients or the beneficiaries get money from Post Bank, they remain the beneficiaries of the South African Social Security Agency, and we have an interest to make sure that their plight is being attended to.
In other news, Tshwane's Corporate and Shared Services Department has obtained a court order to demolish illegally constructed buildings located at Luther Street in Pretoria West. The city took legal action after discovering that the structures were built without approved plans, posing serious safety risks and violating municipal bylaws. MMC Kulufelo Murodi has acknowledged that these buildings may be homes and businesses for some people. However, Murodi says the demolition will ensure compliance with urban planning regulations and main order within the municipality.
The city of Tshwane has obtained a court order to demolish illegally constructed buildings located at 510 and 514 Looting Street, Pretoria West. These structures were erected by one George Asaba, who built in violation of the National Building Regulations and Building Standard Acts and do not comply with the zoning requirements of the property.
More on these and other stories at 11.
Power traffic.
A very good morning to you once again, and let's check out what's happening in your roads. If you're traveling on the N3 southbound, there's slow-moving traffic due to a vehicle that's broken down near the Marlborough Drive exit. Do approach that area with caution and expect some delays from the Buccleuch interchange. If you are traveling on the M1 northbound, you can also expect delays in the double-decker section with that pressure only clearing after the Smith Street exit. If you're traveling on the N1 northbound in Grasmere, just a reminder of those long-term roadworks with some traffic restrictions that's just before the N12 highway exit, so do approach that area with caution and expect some minor delays traveling past it. If you're in Melville traveling on Bears-Nodia Drive, traffic lights are out at Thomas Bowler. Those traffic lights also out in Emerentia at Barry Herzog and Victory Road. If you are traveling on the Jan Smuts Avenue in Craighall Park, traffic lights are out at the Buckingham Avenue intersection. If you are in Kempton Park, the R21 southbound is slow at the moment. Delays are from the Olifantsfontein Road exit. They clear just after the R25 off-ramp. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebohang Pukela.
Power traffic.
Power Breakfast on Power 98.7.
Looking at the city of Tshwane and the city of Johannesburg hosting the U20. Dr Nasipi Moya, mayor of Tshwane. This is sounding very 2010 Football World Cup-ish, where we're going to have the world descending here. We're going to have all of these great conversations, but we're going to be left with the baby and the bathwater.
We need a parcel of bankable projects, whether it's the investment for our water infrastructure or how we are now building or upgrading our substations. We don't want a cliche of an event. We want to have projects in communities so that there's impact once this event is gone.
Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
Power Breakfast is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
One moment. That's all it takes. A split second between life and death. You think you're invincible? That your trip will go off without a hitch? Well, the funeral parlor is more than happy to receive you. Is it too late? One wrong move is all it takes to end it all. Whatever you do, don't let your trip end with RIP. This message was brought to you by the Road Accident Fund, an entity of the Department of Transport. Road Accident Fund. We care.
Engaging in conversations that matter. Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday.
Welcome back. We are in conversation with the great Angus Gibson, and we're talking Yizo Yizo just before the headlines. You can make calls and join the conversation on 0861987000 and send us your voice notes on 0833037093. And join the conversation on social media with the hashtag Power Talk. Just before the industrial stuff, the economic stuff that film does, I have a question about when you look at the body, your entire sort of body of work. Who is the audience, and what message, what is the discourse that it encompasses? Because I remember earlier my provocation was violence plays such a central role.
I mean, Taboko and I shared a sensibility, I suppose. I mean, on the whole, we were interested in the same kind of cinema, the same kind of films. And I suppose many of the films that I admire are violent. So perhaps it does come partly from the both of us. Yeah. But to suggest that ours is not a violent society, I think is a craziness. I mean, it's a delusion.
Are you interrogating the violence, or are you representing it?
So I would like to think that there were repercussions. I mean, there were sort of complex narratives around the violence. And in fact, you think of Yizo as a violent series, but you think of contemporary television and how easily people die. And in fact, if you think hard about Yizo 2, how many people died in that series? How many people were actually killed?
Is that not a thing that the lives and the misrepresentations or representations of violence is precisely these lives of death? They don't have to die. Is that they live a form of life, a form of violence that is a death-like life. They don't have to really be killed, like in John Wick. In John Wick, we have a different relationship in terms of sensibility, imagination, to when we're thinking of it as Papa Action Chester in a schoolyard, where after I watched the series last night, I walk into a world like that as a school kid. And it is a world, it's some dystopian world, this township thing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember after we had a screening, the sort of very first launch, and Taboko and I were sitting together, and there was a representation of the one hijack, and the crowd in that space went insane. I mean, they just there was such excitement around it, which felt like we thought, that's weird. And also the attention that Papa Action and Chester got was not what we expected. And in fact, I remember well Taboko saying to me, we've made a monster here. And in fact, afterwards, friends of mine said, this is completely irresponsible television. And I think Isaac was, our funder was like a little horrified. But I mean, Taboko and I believed in it. And we believed that it was an honest representation of what was happening. And our mandate had been to promote debate. That was what we were asked to do.
It was a powerful provocation in that direction.
Yeah.
I mean, you got letters from the president at the time, deputy president at the time, minister of
well, I mean, in fact, I think we can claim the first division in the ANC because the Women's League called for its banning.
Yes.
And the Youth League absolutely celebrated it. And so it was, in fact, it's the first, I mean, I'm sure I might well be wrong, but to an outsider, it felt like the first fracture, if you know what I mean.
In the movement.
In the movement, yeah. There was a lot of debate about it, and I know, Thabo Mbeki really disliked the project with a passion. Yeah. And there were many people like that. And I would say that I suspect that most of them are people that did not watch the series.
Yeah, because, I think my relationship, certainly, you had these violent characters. They were the colorful ones. Yeah. But at the center of Yizo Yizo were these honest students that wanted to push against infrastructure. Javas in particular.
And good teachers.
And they were big too.
Yeah.
They were big too. Just before we take the calls, can you give us a frame? Like, let's say you're running a mine that is digging gold.
Yeah.
And maybe you are running Sasa as a firm. Yeah. Can you paint in terms of human resource the set of Ilembe, in terms of both human resource, the sort of financing, the building of sets as an industrial activity, and maybe juxtapose that, as it were, with a firm that when you guys are producing, and over how long do these sort of sets and people who are there in that industrial site, how long are they employed for? Just paint it for us economically.
Okay, so, the pre-production on the Ilembe series, obviously there's the research and the writing that takes ages, but the pre-production has always been far too short. So let's say there's 3 months of pre-production and 6 months of production.
Yeah.
And so, for example, and I wish I knew all these numbers, but there are, let's say, 120 absolutely perfectly made rondavels made on our set.
Jesus.
That's
a whole township.
Yeah, those employed at least 60 people that were experts in the field that stayed with us for months and months and months and months, right? Building ahead of production. And I suppose there are two things there. And I think across the board with Shaka Ilembe is it has not only provided employment, pretty much every one of us has felt like a satisfaction in the work that we are doing. So, for example, I believe that those people making those huts stand back and look at them and think, God, these are beautiful.
I know you artists get that sentiment. I want to keep it, push you to how industrious the site is.
So for example, we needed hundreds and hundreds of shields made, right? We could have got somebody in to manufacture them or whatever. We went back to the original makers of shields in KZN, and we spread that across KZN.
How much are we talking about?
I don't know. You've got to. You've chosen the wrong person here, Mbuyiseni.
You run a factory. You don't know how much it costs.
No. I don't run the factory. I'm the creative voice in the factory.
Got you.
In every department there are multiples of people. Like the makeup department. There are at least 30 people that are working. There are interns. There are people making wigs. There are constantly people employed doing beadwork, doing extraordinary beadwork.
If you were to give a number, how many people are employed in Shaka Ilembe sets, and on average, over what period of time?
Hey. What I can say to you is that very often there are 500 people on the set on a day.
Got you.
There are tens of thousands of people that have been employed as background actors across the season. Our crew is well in excess of 150 that are there for the 6 months.
It's a big set.
So it's a huge number of people. You think of feeding all of those people, the caterers, the work that the caterers are doing every day. 500 meals 3 times a day. This all adds up. You think of the number of taxi drivers that we are employing, ferrying people backwards and forwards. Accommodation.
For the entire
when we go traveling, the amounts that we pay on accommodation is huge. So it is a project that employs and provides opportunity and gives satisfaction to many, many, many people. And I suppose, I celebrate that, and the budget on the first season of, I can't tell you what that is.
Yeah, what was the budget?
It was 200 million rand.
And how much did you make? Not you, person, not yourself, not your.
In fact, extraordinarily little.
So 200,000 is what took the show.
No, 200 million.
200 million.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But how much did it generate in profit?
You must ask Mnet that. Yeah, they're not going to tell me.
I'll have them.
Yeah.
Let me take calls because Jesus, an hour is so little, and I hope we can weave in the conversation in that way. We've got Terence in Bedford View. If you've just joined us, this is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Join the conversation with the great Angus Gibson, a creator of works like Yizo Yizo, Isbaya, up to Shaka Ilembe. Terence in Bedford View, welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, gentlemen. I've been holding for 19 minutes. Okay, so just to get onto it, I believe in hip-hop, sex sells, and Angus has come to understand that violence will ultimately sell in the black community. And with regard to Yizo Yizo, I believe he understood very well what they were doing together with the Wuho. They knew that violence will make the Yizo Yizo popular. And if you look at what happens with Ubobo, Innocent Masuku, he was addicted to drugs on that program. And today in real life, he is a drug addict. And I'd like to ask Angus, what does he make of that? Okay. And then secondly, now you then look at Umishak Mavoso, who was a good boy on Yizo Yizo, and he's turned out to be a good kid now, or a good man now, a family man and stuff. So when you say you were giving back to the community via Yizo Yizo, what exactly were you giving? What's that core thing you were giving back? Is the result of what you did then conflict the future? So I need to really understand. And unfortunately, Angus, you're a white man who has contributed quite a lot in these programs about the black community and the violence in that. So I want to also understand from you, outside of your position as a producer and a director, but as a white man, what do you make of the black community given the kind of content that you see on TV? That would be it. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Terence. Very, very provocative, but in a constructive way. I'm going to take Bandile in Orlando West. Bandile, welcome to Power Talk.
I talk.
Baba.
Yebo. My problem with Shaka Ilembe, ne?
Yes.
That they say Ilembe, Ushaka Ilembe, Elenkamanya Malem Kalipa. And you must remember, Shaka is not a hero to some of us, you see, because Shaka was a cruel person and it displaced and killed many of our people, you see. So with Shaka, there's so much. The history of Shaka is distorted. It's good that your guest said it, that history it's got many versions. You see. So with me, Shaka is not a great person. He was just a that's what I can say to you.
Thank you. Hola. Well, there's this how people, that's why I asked the question about who do you have in mind in framing these stories? Who do you imagine you're speaking to? I don't think violence sells. Maybe it does. Maybe sex sells too. But Mzinwezi Nsizwa was big at the same time. And there's no wordy beating up anybody in Yizo Yizo. It's a sitcom. It's like, these men in a hostel and so on and so forth. But I suppose those provocations about the characters, and it's not just the actual actors themselves, there are people who then emulate these lives. And what is your reaction to that?
So, Terence, I hear you. And I mean, when Yizo Yizo came out, the attention that the actors got was insane. And relatively, actors, certainly then, did not earn well. Sort of, they got to the show came out a year after we had been in production. They hadn't been working. And suddenly there was this adulation. And it was a very tough thing for them to engage with. And I felt for all of them. And in fact, when we did the second season, I was very intent on writing, we were intent on writing a narrative which was about redemption, for example, for the characters of Papa Action and Chester. And I was very keen that those actors take the role and bring their characters to a form of redemption. And what had happened is Ronnie and Ernest, who were playing Papa Action and Chester, had said, well, they don't want to do a second season unless it can transform their own lives, unless they can get a house in the suburbs, so to speak. And I was saying to them, look, we're never going to pay you that kind of money, but I think it's important for you, to actually take this character to redemption. And they said no, they didn't want to do it, and eventually I went into, we actually started shooting, and then there was no more time left, and I said, okay, I'm recasting. And I cast Zola and Dumasani in those roles. And literally on that day, the first day we were shooting in the magistrate's court, I think Ronnie called me and said, we've decided we will do it. And I said, well, Ronnie, it's too late now. And so, of course, the irony is that Zola then sort of managed to leverage what he did on Yizo to get a house in the suburbs. So, Zola remains a friend of mine, and Innocent I'm in touch with all the time. And his life is a tough life. And in fact, the impetus for Zone 14 was, at the end of Yizo, there was no employment for these actors. They were brilliant actors, but they were not English speakers. And in fact, at the time, everything was sort of aspirant. If you recall, Generations back then was English speaking, and there was Isidingo, and so I wanted to provide employment for the kind of actors that we had used on Yizo, and that was one of the main impetuses of doing Zone 14. But Terence, I hear you.
Yeah, I do think that today I want to take on this jobs for thousands and thousands of actual actors that go to school, to drama school and all of that. But isn't it today that some of the choices of actors are based on holding a big social media account, for an example? And then there's the neglect of the actual actor, the actual creative who knows how to make our lives, different characters. How has social media disrupted further the employment of actual actors? And does it work? Does it translate in most of these cases where, because I've got 1.9, 2.4 million followers, the sort of producers or station says you got to cast Mbuyiseni. Does it translate on the one hand? On the other, how has it impacted on the employment of actual actors?
Look, I don't think I'm particularly representative in that. I think I have quite a lot of sway in the casting process, because I think other production houses are much more vulnerable. In fact, only once has the broadcaster come to me and said, I want a person with a big social media presence. And I was very unhappy. And in fact, I called a meeting with the particular person and I said, she is not going to be able to deliver. And I do not want to use her in the role. And he basically stood up and said, if you can't find somebody else with the same kind of media presence, you're sticking with her.
But what is the fascination?
And we stuck with her, and
is it to draw audiences?
It failed. I
see.
That is my experience.
I see.
And they never tried that again.
But whoa. Earlier offline, we were talking about another famous person.
Yeah.
You want to get into that?
Is this MacG?
You got MacG on Shaka Lembe.
I do.
On what basis? On what basis is MacG? He's my brother.
I made a promise.
So you're gonna cast MacG on Shaka Lembe. Is he an actor? What is the creative decision of MacG being on Shaka Lembe?
MacG is a fabulous personality that I think many South Africans love and engage with. And I did a podcast with him, and in it he said, I want the smallest role. It can be the smallest role, but I want to be on Shaka Lembe. And I said to him, deal. And I honor my deal. So he's there, and it's a tiny role. It's not. I found a space where I felt like, in fact, the buzz around him would serve the scene rather than detract from the scene, and it does. I think he's funny and he's great in that space, and he's hardly there. It's like it is the tiny role that he asked for.
How long does it last in the whole season?
Oh my goodness me. 20 seconds? 30
for the
seconds?
whole season.
It's
not a role. It's like the camera passed. It's like an extra.
No, but he's there. Believe me, you'll see him. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that we're in the top of the hour. We've got a conversation leading in the same terms of reference with James Ngcobo around theatre. I don't know if I can persuade you to stay, but we're going to take the news, and I will thank you in advance for coming through. I think it's a magnanimous manifesto that we need to push about the centrality of film in economic contribution in this country. We got to think about it as a contributor to economy, and if we don't do that soon, we're going to suffer more and more, because AI is doing wonders in the rest of the industries, and where it may take longer to make the industry disappear is acting, is creating stories. So this was the purpose of this conversation. Your last statement.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't think you chose the wrong person there. But I absolutely, I do believe that this is, like media is a huge growth industry in the world, and I believe that this country could be much more powerful. And I do believe that we are not in partnership with the government. I do believe that there is not impetus from their side to grow our industry in a way.
Or from the private banks.
This is true.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, offline, I'll recommend some people that will be much better guests than I am.
To repeat the conversation.
Yeah.
The great Angus Gibson.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And here's our token of appreciation.
Oh, my goodness.
We're going to take the news with Nyakalo Tefu.
Power News.
Thanks, Mbuyiseni. The top stories at this hour. Employment and Labour Minister Nkosazana Meth has assured that her department is targeting clean administration, and Tswane's corporate and shared services department obtains a court order to demolish illegally constructed buildings located at Ludwig Street in Pretoria West. With the news at 11, a very good morning to you. I'm Nyakalo Tefu. Employment and Labour Minister Nkosazana Meth has assured that her department is targeting a clean administration. Meth earlier addressed Scopa's hearing with the Unemployment Insurance Fund and Compensation Fund. The hearing held by the Standing Committee on Public Accounts is focusing on the two entities' audit outcomes and financial performance for the 2023-2024 financial year. This comes as the Auditor General's office blasted both entities for their lack of internal controls and accountability in management. Last week, the AG's office told Scopa UI Air Force struggled to submit financial statements on time repeatedly and mismanaged the payments of the temporary employer-employee relief scheme payments meant to cushion workers during COVID. Meth says corrective measures are put in place and have started to show positive results.
We need to target clean audit outcome, not qualified or unqualified. It is important to acknowledge that even though some progress is being made, there remain persistent challenges still, and interventions attempted in the past seem not to have yielded much turnaround. Some of these issues have gone unchecked for a number of years, eroding public trust and weakening institutional integrity. However, under this seventh administration, within the framework of the GNU, we are committed to breaking this cycle. One of our key priorities is the eradication of corruption, financial mismanagement as outlined in our governance goals. We are taking concrete action to hold wrongdoers accountable and to ensure public funds serve their intended purpose.
In other news, Tswane's Corporate and Shared Services Department has obtained a court order to demolish illegally constructed buildings located at Ludwig Street in Pretoria West. The city took legal action after discovering that the structures were built without approved plans, posing serious safety risks and violating municipal bylaws. MMC Kulufelo Murodi has acknowledged that these buildings may be homes and businesses for some people. However, Murodi says that demolition will ensure compliance with urban planning regulations and maintain order within the municipality.
The city of Tshwane has obtained a court order to demolish illegally constructed buildings located at 510 and 514 Looting Street, Pretoria West. These structures were erected by one George Asaba, who built in violation of the National Building Regulations and Building Standard Acts and do not comply with the zoning requirements of the property.
The South African Post Bank, together with the South African Social Security Agency, says beneficiaries who have not yet migrated to the new black cards will still be able to use their Sasa gold cards until the deadline of March 20th. The two entities say beneficiaries will still be able to perform all-enabled transactions such as withdrawals of cash at ATMs, making balance inquiries, printing statements, and cash withdrawals over the tills in all retailers. The Sasa gold cards will officially be disabled on March 20th at 5 o'clock. It is only beyond March 20th, 2025, that beneficiaries will no longer be able to use their Sasa gold cards for any transactions. However, the Post Bank and Sasa assure beneficiaries who may miss the deadline that they will continue to be paid their social grants through alternative methods. Sasa spokesperson Baseka Letsatsi says both entities are ready for the expected influx as the deadline draws nearer.
Post Bank is ready. We have daily meetings with them, and they have indicated basically to us that they are trying everything in their power to make sure that they help people to make sure that they swap the cards, because they understand. Remember, as much as the clients or the beneficiaries get money from Post Bank, they remain the beneficiaries of the South African Social Security Agency. And we have an interest to make sure that their plight is being attended to.
And the South African National Taxi Council has called on the city of Cape Town to conduct through a probe into a case involving 3 law enforcement authorities forcefully enforcing an arrest on a minibus driver. This follows a disturbing video depicting a group of traffic officers strangling a minibus taxi driver, making rounds on social media. Allegedly, the driver subsequently lost consciousness due to the strangulation. The video has since sparked an outrage on social media, causing public criticism on both law enforcement authorities who misuse their powers and motorists who refuse to comply with authorities. Santako's Makosandile Tumana.
Bear in mind that during the course of the day, we were calming our drivers not to block the roads in the Cape Town Tech because of the driver was still alive. When the same situation occurred in N2, it also now creates more tension between the drivers and the law enforcement. As a taxi industry or Santaco, we are saying everyone must calm down, and Santaco will intervene to the law enforcement to check what is exactly going on now. Because, you know, if you can look at that driver is not fighting to anybody. He is just getting beaten by the traffic officers.
A look at your financial indicators. The rand is trading at 18 rand 42 cents to the US dollar, 23 rand 64 cents to the pound, 19 rand 69 cents to the euro. Gold's trading at $2,919.42 a fine ounce. Our Brent crude oil is at $70.88 a barrel. Recapping the top story in Power News at this hour, Employment and Labour Minister Nomakosazana Meth has assured that her department is targeting a clean administration.
Power News. On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
This is Power 98.7. And now you're listening to Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. 9 a.m. to midday. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
Sanbonani! Welcome back to Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We are having a conversation about the economic value of the arts, film and theatre. Now, we're with the great James Ngcobo. You can join the conversation on 0861987000, WhatsApp line 0833037093. Join the conversation on all social media platforms with the hashtag Power Talk. I'm so happy. Ngino Baba. And I'm a bit discombobulated because ngifuna ukuqala songs of migration. Songs of migration.
You know when a character says, I knew it.
Yeah. How was it? Like, how are you?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I'm just, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for this invite. And as soon as it popped up, Mush will tell you, I wrote a very big definitely.
Thank you. I feel honored.
Yeah. And I started also just thinking back on times we met and years ago. But yes, Songs of Migration for me, I remember it was a Sunday and one of my biggest passions in life, I cook.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm very big on, I cook everything. You know, I grew up in Devon. I cook food, sort of like Southern Indian food. I make Thai food. You teach I see too, and I'm very adventurous with.
see too.
Yes, I see too. I can get up on
absolutely.
Yeah, you need some Sotho, so how you do Tili and Montlung Giboa Sotho.
So Stockfell was a real thing.
Stockfell is the most.
It was a documentary.
It was the most real and close production to my life that I've ever played. And Joe Mafela, it was Joe Mafela's concoction. It was based on a Stockfell that Joe Mafela was part of up until the day he died. It was called Scrapyard in Alexander. And Brajo called me and we sat with Brajo and we spoke about this production. And I said to Brajo, and because it was really created for me and Mushidi himself.
I see.
And Mushidi couldn't do it. And then Manaka Ranaka ended up in it. And Brajo said to me, what character would you love to play? And I said, I would love to play a Zulu man who is desperately trying to speak his wife's language and he can't get it right. He's not a guy who's
adamant. You're trying to play yourself.
So we got into this piece, and Moach was doing Setswana. There was Shaman was doing Shivenda, and it was actually like a mind blowing thing for me, for a boy who grew up in Guamashu, even seeing how people write languages.
Yeah,
because that was so removed from. I mean, a phenomenon about this country is that the tribes that you find in the coastal part of South Africa suffer from the fact that they just speak one language, which is the Zulus and the Xhosas.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And me as James, I've lived in Joburg, and I've always, when I sit with people and didn't want people to speak my language, 11 people to speak my language for me, and I've always tried to
cross the barrier.
Yeah, so it was just so amazing, and that the collision of these languages created such amazing space for us to be funny.
Yes.
To be funny, and we had a genius director, Vusti Bakwane, who directed us that we were not aware of the idea that we're in comedy. We were in a situational comedy. We were in a piece, and I would say things to Manaka. I would say something Gasuta. Oh, mocho, ubuahantle kir. Eh, since I got in Kongwan.
So this moving across worlds, in this case, battling with the language of the other, who is a lover, sometimes who is an actual stranger. But theater is at the center, at least historically, of a cultural creation, stories and so on and so forth. I want to draw you in immediately there. What is the place of theater in society today?
Love it. First of all, we said I want sketch.
Sketch.
Yeah.
Science or nice sketch.
Science is sketch, and sketch from Umuntu Ekula was always the extension of the society. Sketch was that space that allowed young scribes, young wordsmiths, young playwrights to play with life through their eyes. That was what sketch was. And we went through a time of absolute anarchy in this country, and sketch. There was a time when if you come from, I don't know, from Spooking, you didn't know what was happening. Mpumalanga. And people started writing plays because there was a time when really information in this country, I still take my hat off to people who are touring productions. I'd ask, we started an annual lecture, Gibson Kente annual lecture, after we named the theater, and I sat and we were talking.
Soweto.
Yeah, we were sitting, presenting to the board, and I said, the naming, just the naming on its own, it's okay, but we need to have something that transcends the naming, a symbolism that is attached to that. And when they said, what is it? And I said, I would love to bring people from an academic space to come to theater and write about, deliver papers about Prakeep. There are young people who are writing their dissertations now on Prakeep. And so Gibson Kente, and one of the most horrible laws of apartheid was a law called the influx control law, which basically meant it was an Excel of apartheid. That just meant who is where at what time and why. And Gibson Kente Mbuyiseni is touring plays at that time.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing. So when we were opening the theater, I was looking for footage, Gibson Kente footage, and we obviously couldn't find in this country. And then we got linked to a German man who lives in Dusseldorf who shot it clandestine style. And we got hold of him, and he said, no, I've got the stuff. And he's quite a well-off chap, says, I've got the stuff, I shot it, it's here in my archive. Do you want to use it? And so we paid something that went to the foundation. But why I'm telling you this story, when I was watching it, I see this big bus. And this bus is approaching. Then the bus turns. It passes a sign that says Tawung. And the bus carries on. It's an old bus, and then it says Mama and the Lord on the side. And the bus stops outside of this school and things. And I hear a cacophony of voices of these kids who are playing. And I hear a woman saying, Somizi, hi. And Somizi was 9 years old. He was in that bus touring with his parents. The first role that Mbongeni Ngema got to play in Mama and the Lord, the first lead that he got. And so I'm getting to answering you when you said, what is theater? What is story? What is the fascination of story with the human condition? What is the fascination of story with this country has gone through a complete metamorphosis since 1994 that has fascinated me as a storyteller. We are sitting with an influx of people that have come to this country, bringing a whole lot of things, including their stories, and bringing what I would say a new audience. And that is why you recall a couple of years ago, I did an adaptation. There's a man called Professor Mati Diawara, who was very good friends with Prayu. He's at NYU. He wrote a book on Sunjata, the Malian story. And that actually was adapted, and Lion King is created from that story, from the 13th century. And so Prayu, I was breaking bread with Prayu at a restaurant, and I said he used to call me Jamuzu. And he said to me, Jamuzu, what are you doing next? And I said, Prayu, I've been fascinated with this story. And I tell him, and he says, no, I'm going to New York to play. I'm going to bring you a book. He brought me this book, and a book by a man that they constantly say he's the Tolstoy of Mali. His name is Dr. Niane. And I was reading these pieces, and then I started putting together this adaptation. And we had some of the finest actors in this country speaking Banbaro, speaking Manden, speaking Honda, speaking Arabic. That for me is what needs to happen to theater in this country. And I know we'll talk further on it, but the myopia that we have, that means we put theater in a pigeonhole that is so small, stifles it.
If you're joining us now on Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, we're having a conversation about theatre in society today and the economic value that it brings. You can join the conversation on 0861 987 000, WhatsApp line 0833037093, and join the conversation on social media with the hashtag Power Talk. Before I go to the economic value, I want you to, in some pragmatic terms, we're thinking here, market theatre, we're thinking Gibson Kente, Soweto theatre, we're thinking state theatre, Joburg theatre. But the truth of the matter is that ama theatres, they've grown small, disrupted, firstly by television, and now much more the streaming platforms, social media. What is happening today? What is the place, in your view, of theatre today in the heads of the people? Do they think, "Mele ngiyobona iplay," and what kind of work are you involved in at the moment to fight back about the space of theatre in society?
They do. They do. We have evolved in a beautiful way as a species. We've come up with all sorts of great ideas. The streaming that you're talking about, nothing will ever replace the immediacy of watching a play. What you feel when you sit in an auditorium and watch a dancer doing a plie and they land and you see them replenish a breath, that you could never get on your screen. So we still have audiences that are coming to the theatre. We have a lot of people that are coming to the theatre, and all theatres in South Africa are enjoying audiences. Yes, there's socio-economic issues, and we discuss the risk register with the CFO, and one of the new risks that has come up for this pocket of the country is the semigration. People who are leaving Gauteng, leaving Joburg, going somewhere else, but for me, I've always been a type of person that looks at what one might think is a calamity and say, what lies beyond it?
Okay.
You know, and so we are at a very beautiful and challenging time to find new audiences. How do you find new audiences? We need to not be sentimental as curators of spaces. We need to find young voices that are creating work. I'm almost like, it's something I'm not shy to say, I'm a freak for mentorship.
Yeah.
There is nothing I enjoy like witnessing a room that has a collision of a seasoned voice and an emerging voice. And there is a humility also that comes with mentorship. Mentorship speaks to the fact that whatever skill you've amassed in your life, you can't think you must be the only person that knows how to do it. You need to pass it on. So it is a lot of boxes that we need to tick right. Our marketing needs to deal with the fact that we in the contemporary tapestry. Our marketing can't sit in a space that almost like it pops up as a relic from the past. Our marketing needs to be so on point that we are offering people that we are trying to tickle their curiosity to bring to the theatre. We're offering them a narrative in a way that they're used to consuming it.
So let's do that in a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that is raising a child today knows that they spend humongous amounts of time on YouTube.
Yeah.
This is the screen generation. They always watching screens. They learn with screens. They grow up. They want food. They look at screens. They want clothes. They look at screens.
Yeah.
And they want entertainment. They look at screens.
Yeah.
They read books on screens.
Yeah.
What is this sort of bridge for you, for this generation that says there's something authentic in theatre? How do they make the decision to leave the screen, come to the market theatre to enjoy a show?
We pop up on their screens that they interact with daily. We pop up with narrative that speaks to the fact that we have curated a work that is about to open or has just opened at Joburg Theatre, and the way we put together our marketing ideas, they are completely designed to be in that space.
So why would I'm taking a provocative example. Why would I watch? What is the thing that will make me say, instead of watching the film Sarafina, I want to go watch the play Sarafina?
Yeah.
What is that? Why would I take such a decision if you were to put it in a much more practical sense?
Yeah. So
for our listeners,
yes. One also, it will speak to the fact that there is an amazing young director that has been attached to Sarafina to look at Sarafina and see what is it that they're able to. It's a period piece, but what is it that how else they can dream that space of Sarafina? That's the first thing. The second thing is how it's cast. it's cast with people that are visible to that constituency. And the third thing is to be very clear about what is its pertinence in the now. For me, it's always about, it's one thing, I always say the easiest thing to do as an artistic director is putting on plays. But the most difficult thing to do is finding resources to put on plays and the explaining of the why we're putting on that play. So that I am able to make you call a friend you're at varsity with and say to them, let's go watch this piece. This is what I've discovered about it. So we even in theaters, we have new units that are like social media units. We say when Upuma we star on a Friday. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Was the biggest thing.
Today I just have to get 1,000 retweets.
Yeah.
It's like being on the star.
Yeah. You know, I've always been a jogger. And run and look for a star. And we were making work at that time. And when I spoke to you about mentorship and a thing that is like a mantra of mine that I say to myself all the time because I love working with young people. I always say a good mentor is the one that has the humility that tells them that they too have a lot to learn from the mentee. The young people that I'm around, they teach me so much. Yes, I'm the one who looks for works. I put together the installation of the 3 theaters and put a lot of thought as if I'm thinking of a piece. We're about to produce a fascinating piece written and directed by Mpomlepo at Soweto Theatre about a man who discovers that there is no space to bury his son, and to defy the government, he digs a grave at the back of his house. It's called One Hole Left. And if you look at the piece is about South Africa today. The piece is about a huge number of people that say we are not listened to by people that we vote for and people that we put in power. So I will look for that piece and think at Rhodoport Theatre what is running at the same time. So like for an example, we've got piano lesson that is running in Joburg Theatre, and somebody asked me and said, James, why did you pick this piece? Let alone that is written by a man who won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. Why did you pick that piece? And I said, from the moment I finished reading it, this piece tackles something that is a big problem in this country. It's about land. And there's something very interesting. It's set right after the Great Depression in the 1930s, and Slavery Act has not been put in place. And this is pre-Rosa Parks, pre-Martin Luther King, pre-Malcolm X, but pre-civil rights movement. But it is about that wave that is and this character speaks to South Africans, because land is, there's a line in the play where he says land is one thing that God is not making any more of, and is a character that is obsessed with. So my thing is, I've always said we are universal storytellers. I've always spoken about continental curiosity that we need. You know, we talk about policy, and I know we'll get to policy. We talk about policy. And I've always said to people, I've gone to symposiums, I've gone to all these meetings, and people sit and dissect policy. But for me, the biggest problem is not just policy. It's the fact that if you take the departments that have always been responsible for running arts and culture, is the lack of continuum each time a political head changes.
Continuity.
Yes.
Long-term
there is no, and each one comes and orbits everything that was just starting to take off, that was before. So we sit and we talk policy this, policy that, white paper this, and all of that. But if we don't have a sense of a continuum to be able to look back and say, from Minister A to Minister wherever, what is it that we've maintained,
and that
shift, that one starts articulating who we are, and as people in the theatre space. The idea also, we'll talk about it, of bilaterals. I would love to talk about like city to city bilaterals, country to country bilaterals. We need to think broader.
Hold that thought. Godfrey Hammerskral, I see you. We're going to take the news. This is Power Talk. And we are taking your calls on 0861987000 and having a conversation with the great James Ngcobo. Let's take the news with Nyakalo Tefu.
Thanks, Mbuyiseni. Good morning once again. In news-making headlines at this hour, newly appointed ANC KZN leader Jeff Radebe says the main priority is to rebuild, unite the movement, reconnect with the people and restore their confidence in the ANC. This as the party's newly appointed KZN provincial task team briefed the media on the outcomes of its inaugural meeting. The party's new task team in KZN is made up of 67 members to revitalize the party's presence in the province. The structure is led by veteran ANC leader Jeff Radebe as convener, with Mike Mabuya Kulu serving as coordinator. Radebe says the people shall govern.
As the new African National Congress provincial leadership, therefore, we want to reaffirm our firm commitment that the people shall govern. To this end, we can no longer take our membership, our people at large, for granted if we are to reclaim the ANC as a strategic center of power.
In other news, the South African Police Service have arrested a 55-year-old Nigerian man at OR Tambo International Airport. This after he arrived from Sao Paulo, Brazil, on suspicion of drug trafficking. SAP's spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Amanda van Wyk, says the man was detained yesterday after police discovered he had swallowed cocaine with an undisclosed amount. Colonel van Wyk says an investigation is ongoing.
The suspect had just landed from Sao Paulo, Brazil, when he was intercepted by our members at the airport. A medical x-ray later confirmed that he had ingested multiple bullets suspected to contain cocaine. The suspect, who is still in the process of releasing the bullets, is expected to appear before the Kempton Park Magistrates Court later this week. This arrest follows last month's successful operation in which we have apprehended 2 South African drug mules and seized cocaine worth an estimated value of 7.5 million rand at the same airport.
More on these and other stories at 12.
Power Business on Power 98.7.
From waiting tables to building a thriving marketing agency across Southern Africa, Kabelo Ncholo is the true definition of a hustler. With just 350 Rand from a tip, he started Y Brand in 2004.
To be an entrepreneur, one, you need to acknowledge that entrepreneur, it's not just an isolation, it has siblings. And part of the siblings is failure. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's going to be a lot of test failing. The key things is, out of the failure and the challenges that goes hand in hand with entrepreneurship, it's always to reflect back and always take a moment to say, whatever I failed on, that reflections moment, it is very key because of it is the one that will propel you to go further.
Power Business, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. and Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m. on Power 98.7.
In response to the current unstable economic conditions, the Unemployment Insurance Fund, that's the UIF, an entity of the Department of Employment and Labour, has allocated 2.4 billion rand in budget for the temporary employer-employee relief scheme known as TERS to assist businesses in distress. TERS is an intervention by the Department of Employment and Labour that provides financial assistance to companies for a period of up to 12 months. The scheme enables employers to retain employees by covering their salaries while the company focuses on implementing a turnaround strategy to remain operational. For more information on TERS and how to apply, please visit www.ccma.org.za/temporary-employer-employee-relief-scheme/ UIF, working for you.
Power Traffic, getting you to work and home.
N1 northbound as you are traveling towards
There are
Pretoria.
roadworks with lane restrictions ahead of.
Be on the move with reliable and up-to-the-minute traffic updates every half hour.
Kempton Park on the R21 southbound, there's an accident
If
ahead.
you're traveling on Paul Kruger Street South as you are approaching Aditshwane CBD, you can expect
Power 98.7 traffic.
And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents,
Connect with us on Exit Power 987 Traffic.
Now we're talking.
Hi everyone, I'm Dean McPherson, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. In the State of the Nation reply, I announced that we're releasing 31 state-owned properties for redevelopment that will generate 10 billion rand in investment and create 165,000 new jobs. These public-private partnerships will help us realize our dream to turn South Africa into a construction site. To achieve this, the department in 2025 will be leveraging reforms in infrastructure development through Infrastructure South Africa, release requests for proposals to redevelop our small harbours, which will create tens of thousands of new jobs, as well as reforming the expanded public works program to ensure it becomes a genuine stepping stone to permanent employment. We are accelerating efforts to get more cranes in the sky and more shovels in the ground. Our department is working for you and with you to build a better South Africa for the future.
Stay informed. Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday on Power 98.7.
This is Power Talk, and we are taking calls 0861987000, WhatsApp line 0833037093. We're talking theatre, and we are thinking about it as an industrial value. And we've got Godfrey from Hammanskraal. I plead with all of us, 1 minute per person. Godfrey, welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for holding, brother.
No problem. Firstly, I want to applaud you and salute you for leaving politics without a fight or a battle. You avoided wrestling in the mud.
Yeah.
By just leaving. Thank you very much for doing that. I salute you. But now, I'm having a serious challenge regarding our art industry.
Yes.
Who is supposed to regulate between government and these production companies to regulate our industry, art industry? Because it's a two-way traffic. We see our actors on television looking like they are eating on fleshy pots. And in real life, they are so exploited, they're living a poor life. Who must protect these particular actors? Even when you go to theater, the people who are on the stage, we watch them on weekends. Who is Parliament supposed maybe to issue an act, pass an act that is going to protect and regulate this particular industry? And lastly, did James approach the current Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture? He seemed like somebody who is so jubilant, who has energy, who wants to solve every problem in that industry. Did they approach him with the challenges that they have in the industry? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Godfrey from Hammanskraal. Let's take from Johannesburg, Nkosana. Welcome to Power Talk, Boot.
Mr. Ndlozi, hi.
Hi, indeed.
I'm good. Nkosana from Malvern Julius here.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, I had a talk with Mr. James Ngcobo, and he mentioned that the most important thing is school for a performer. A couple of years later, I got my degree, and still nothing is happening. I just want to ask.
A degree in what?
And drama and theater studies, theater performance, basically at Wits University. What I'd like to know is, what is it that I can actually do to penetrate these spaces? Because this space is impenetrable. You can write, you can perform, but if you are not performing for specific places like the Market Theatre, Joburg Theatre, any other theatre that you can actually think of, you won't be doing it the right way in a way. I don't know. You won't get recognition.
Let me ask something, Kosan.
Yes.
I don't know if there is something you can give Nkosan. I know you will address the general question of access to jobs, which is at the center of us in this conversation. Investments, theater, and all of that. But can I put him online and then or give you his number, and then maybe you can think of him for some production you are on or busy with at Johannesburg Theatre.
Yeah, and to find out, because I'm happy he's gone to Wits to study.
It's a prestigious school.
Yeah, to then find out in which because it's a big thing, the arts industry. If he's focusing on acting, he's focusing on writing, the residency programs that are geared towards writing. I mean, we just finishing off our youth development strategy, and that we're about to present into to the new board, whose really big thrust is on what is it that we do with emerging content creators, not performers, the ones at the back, which we will speak about when we get to the business side.
Okay, Nkosana, just stay online, and Fano will try and connect you back again to Ubabu Ngcobo. The first caller, your sentiments on him about the exploitation of the workers, and if there's been any form of interaction with the current minister about not just the condition of the workers, the actors, whether they're in theatre or TV, but generally about the problems of theatre.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when he posed the question as to who is going to regulate the industry, is the government.
Yes.
Because people in the arts sector, there's this notion that people in the arts sector, we always seen as abantu abadlalayo, and which
like
I have such a disdain
sports,
for and so I spoke earlier about policy and this idea of the bills that are waiting for the president to even bills that talk to royalties, the residuals, that so that is a responsibility of the government. The government looks after all sectors of society, and the arts is in that. But I will tell you, just to answer that, because I know we're chasing time, is I was artistic director at the market for 9 years, and before that I was artistic director. I worked in Amsterdam for 4 years. I worked in 19 cities in Europe, and I'm at the Joburg Theatre. I have witnessed how this position, people still think being an artistic director is about putting on plays. It's this position has completely changed, and one of the things that I really love doing, I mean, tomorrow I'm presenting to two very big organization, and one of them is a black company. And when I was at the market, I was able to get a black company involved in mining that gave the market 7.4 million towards the development. We did a program called Ditsumo that was it was the first time in the history of the market that the market got black money. From a completely black company. So I have taught myself over the years to go somewhere, park my car, take my passion, put it in a cubby hole, and walk up the stairs and go and sit in the boardroom and sit with people who are from business, who want to know what is the value add. If you're saying to them you want their particular company to invest in a production that you're doing.
Let's do that before. I mean, firstly, this attitude, and I'm hoping that this is the conversation precisely to destigmatize the idea that actors, what you see on TV, it's actually a very well coordinated economic activity. Just paint a show. I did this with Angus Gibson. He couldn't give me the numbers, but when you give us an example of a production, take the state, the Johannesburg Theatre, paint it for us in terms of workers, in terms of the sort of production lines, how much jobs they create, and the economic value for it before we sort of go to why invest in theatre.
Beautiful. So I'm the artistic director of the Joburg City Theatres, which is a cluster of 3 theatres: Soweto Theatre, Roodepoort Theatre, and Joburg Theatre. So I belong in the producing unit. That is the unit that dreams what the thematic angle of everything that we get to stage. So you've got the producing unit, you've got the marketing unit, you've got technical stage. All the sets that you see that pop up on our stages are built at Joburg Theatre with an amazing man called Enos Ramaroko, who's the head of technical stage, who sits with directors, the directors that we bring in, and directors pitch an idea to us. I look at an idea, I sit with the team, especially with my COO. We sit and we look at it and get into a space where we cost the production and say if we're interested in doing this production in terms of what we have in the purse, which is an allocation for that fiscal year, are we able to afford this production? We do a business case. A business case speaks to when do we break even in this investment, and at 80%, what is the revenue that we bring in, and we look at all the cases, the best case to the worst case scenario, and then we look at the why we're doing this piece. Are we doing this piece because we are wanting to retain, because there's audience development, but there's a thing I love even bigger than audience development: how you retain audiences, how you make them come back again. And I when I was at the market and at the Joburg Theatre, I'm known for that. I would break my back for excellence. It has to, because I love what you said earlier. You were talking about the big challenges that theatres have with the streaming and everything. If we're not doing great work, people are not going to come to the theatre. So you start seeing how the numbers are swelling up with the different units of the theatre, and some of these people are permanent staff members, and some of them are with the influx of young people coming out of universities. It is our responsibility and a mandate we give to ourselves to get in young people on internships and see how we can work with them and grow them and see and be able to identify a young person that you think this one is a grabber. You hold on to this young person. How do we upskill them? And so you've got all these teams at these three theatres. Each theatre has a GM who is all about the governance and running the building, and each theatre has a producer who then work with us at the Joburg Theatre, because that we will be like the nerve center of these three theatres, and so there's the marketing unit in all the theatres. At Soweto Theatre now, we've got something absolutely, we're the only theatre in South Africa with a youth orchestra. And we've just linked our youth orchestra with the London Sinfonia, which is one of the oldest orchestras in Europe, to be able to bring people like Tsepom Ngoma, Kutwane Masote, people who are coming there with, they masters in music, and they come and do music clinics with young people. And we were sitting in a meeting, and I said, this youth orchestra that we have is opening very interesting funding doors. We're the only theatre in this country that can sit in a boardroom and look somebody in the eye and say, we've got young people. On a Saturday, when you're at the theatre, your heart will just swell up like this when you see parents. These kids are not from Roodepoort or from Malbertine or whatever. They're not from anything that starts smelling like opulence. They're from Soweto. You see cars parking, you see a father
they're doing classical music.
Yeah, they're doing classical music.
How does...
And so my thing is that we then need to find resources to make sure that all these programs are possible. And I've always said, I have never been in the artistic bubble. This thing of being in a bubble, I'm an actor and whatever, it tires me very, very quickly. I'm always being very pragmatic, that if the theatre or the arts do not have a healthy relationship with the business sector, then it's just, we're delusional about it.
But is there a time that might come where the rethinking that you are busy with brings about a situation where theatre doesn't depend on donors, that it's a self-generating economic machine.
Yeah.
So that it's able to really assume that autonomous role in society, to not be at the mercy either of this or that rich man,
or the fiscus,
or the fiscus. How can theatre make money for itself?
Beautiful, my brother. You know, because we also have to learn from the world and look. Take, for an example, and I was talking about working in 19 cities in Europe, but take New York, for an example, and you look at the GDP of not only the city, but the state of New York, and look at the contributions to that GDP, and obviously the financial sector will be the biggest contributor to that. And then second is the arts. Because what they've gotten right is and the arts can't be a silo. When people come to your city, they stay somewhere, they eat somewhere, they use the taxis in the city that you're at. And so it is something we need to seriously start doing in this country, to not look at the arts as the silo. And this is the thing that I was talking about earlier, that I'm almost obsessed about as artistic director. And then you know, we're starting to look also, how do we, when we get rights, how do we get new rights to production so that we can shoot them, so that we can give that person who's maybe an elderly person who can't come to the theater, they can be able to watch the show. How do we commission people who are doing soundscape design to create new music, and people walk out of the theater and get into their cars and go to iTunes? That music is there, and that is revenue that is coming for the theater. The other thing also that we need to walk away from the theater is this elite thing. There is just this thing that is so disturbing, that we keep thinking that theater is elite. There is nothing elite about theater. And when you do think like that, your business acumen needs a really a fixing, because you are not bringing all sorts of people. I've always made an example that in cities like London, a guy that cleans toilets on the subways can sit next to a chartered accountant and watch a play called Yerma, because everybody goes to the theater. And so it is, and this idea also of theaters always waiting for people to come to them needs, because it's very imperialistic, it needs to end. We go out and interact with people, with business a lot. And for me, just my biggest fascination is with business, so that if I'm thinking of putting together a piece that is written by Wallace Soyinka, is I need to already be thinking that what business will vibe with a piece like that, and start doing something interesting. Do I find that actor who lives in Akure in Nigeria called and bring him to come to be in the piece? We just need to rethink how we present theater, and I just feel we sit comfortably in something that we've always known. And you know, relationships that one had with you know, because other countries, when they go anywhere in the world, they understand international mission, and that whatever that has been allocated to them as part of the international mission needs also to go to them, producing works that are written by writers from their countries. So it's just, we just need to relook things. And I pray I haven't interacted with this new minister, because now I'm in the theaters that are run by the city of Joburg. So our main shareholder is the city of Joburg. But the one thing that I want, before we end, that I want to say that has always shocked me is how we are not sending officials that work in these departments to go and learn from the world. Yeah. You know, Egypt has one of the top arts festivals in this country. We have no connection with it. And so I'll make an example. In May, I'm going to Russia. I'm directing a play in Moscow. I'm directing Russian actors. I'm doing a play written by an Austrian playwright. And I've always been fascinated by this idea of the beginning of the artistic bilaterals between countries, between cities. In 1994, we were twinned with San Francisco, one of the most artistic cities on the West Coast. We've done nothing to put us
cultivate.
To cultivate. And so the work I did with you, Masagela, we took work internationally because Prayu had played in that space and he understood the value of getting into collaboration. And so my thing, my brother, that I really, really feel strong about is that we have stats that are taking us towards what one will call the evolution of our sector. But what we need the humility to go and learn from the world.
Okay.
You know, places like Avignon, places like Edinburgh, and they've been doing this far long.
Let me bring in an interesting caller. Ukhatebe. Welcome to Power Talk. If you've just joined us, we are having a conversation with James Ngcobo. He's in charge of the Johannesburg theatres, and we're having a conversation about theatre as part of what adds to the economic value of our country. I've got Ringo Madlingozi online. Welcome to Power Talk, Khateb.
Oh, Dr. Q, thank you very much, Dr. Lawam. And I want to say hello to Tatu Ngcobo, man.
He's listening. He's listening.
Thank you for the beautiful information and also the passion that you have for our art, not only in theater but art in general. You know, as you said, that you don't want to be bubbled up into one thing. But nevertheless, you know, I would love to ask you this question: that do you think we will ever have an orchestra that is totally decolonized and totally African? I'll tell you why. Because I know that orchestra is on its own, on its making is a European or whatever, but it's outside Africa. Do you think that we'll ever have one that is having everything about Africa?
You mean the decolonization of orchestra? Yeah. Songs of Migration was a great attempt in that direction.
Yeah.
It could actually be orchestricized.
Yeah.
Like it could be.
And as I'm listening to Ringo, I've just had an idea that we should talk about. You know, Komani in Eastern Cape gave us some of the finest composers this country has ever seen. And there's an idea to curate a program that we can work on, looking at the songs that
India Kotola into an orchestra accompaniment. You've got an entire voluminous catalog. What would it mean to turn that catalog into an orchestra piece?
We must invite you to come meet our orchestra.
You must go. You must meet and say, how do you take Ndiakotola or an entire album of yours into reproduce it and recast it with the Soweto orchestra that is playing at the Soweto Theatre. Am I asking for too much, Khateb?
No. Definitely. We tried to do that with Victor Mosonde, but we stopped halfway.
Let's revive that. Babu Ngcobo.
No, which songs also, I really appreciate it, because what Songs of Migration also did was we sat with Prayu and realized that, hey, people have had to move from their cradles for whatever reason to somewhere else. And on the trot, they meet people, they teach them their songs, they learn songs from those people. It was, we were then I'm convinced that every nation has a migration song. And that is why Songs of Migration, you couldn't place it. It started in this country, and the next thing, there's Underground Railroad. There is the Harriet Tubman era, and then it pops up to 1917, just before the beginning of the First World War. And it was this thing that I'm talking about, that as much as we are producing South African work, we need to have an obsession with the world, because I think when we start looking at the universality of what we do, the funding that you're talking about, the escalation of this sector as an industry, and tickling the curiosity of the captains of industry, and all these things come when you do something. But if we're just sitting and going, oh no, this is how it's always been done, then it's not gonna Come right.
Thank you so much. An hour is not enough. There is still a lot to be said about the ways in which artificial intelligence is also coming and disrupting this industry. But I've got 720 hours in the next 12 months to explore all of this. Here's our token of appreciation to you for coming to the show and the work that you do. We wish you well. And our statement really with today's show is there is an economic value that business, that companies, that banks, that investors need to appreciate about the arts. We need to think about the arts as value-creating entities. And in other countries, they contribute bigger than mining, bigger than some of the sectors that we think as value creation. Thank you so much.
One more thing to say is also the mentorship of the young in the thing that I call beyond the performance.
Yes.
To get young people into design and to to get young people also into the most secure jobs in our sector when they start being the content creators that are designing the work. And it's one of my biggest passions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of Power Talk. You've got the news at the top of the hour, midday with Nyakalo Tefu. For me, Titintintanda Nonga Makai.
Power News.
Thanks, Mbuyiseni. The top stories at this hour. The Department of Labour says a plan is in place to deal with leadership instability and filling of critical posts at the UIF and Compensation Fund. A newly appointed ANC KZN leader, Jeff Khatebe, says the main priority is to rebuild, unite the movement, reconnect with the people and restore their confidence in the ANC. With the news at 12, a very good afternoon to you. I'm Nyakalo Tefu. A plan is in place to deal with leadership instability and filling of critical posts at the UIF and Compensation Fund, which operates under the Department of Labour. This according to employees.